us in here are probably college-bound students. We've most likely thought about what it's going to be like when we finally gain our independence. And what do you usually think of when you think of college kids? Maybe ramen noodles every night for dinner because you can't afford anything else. Or working in every spare moment that you have so you can pay off your student debt or go to extracurricular activities. It's unfair that these people that still have jobs are so in the hole of debt and they can't pay for their basic needs. This is one of the many reasons why the U.S. needs to raise its federal minimum wage. Not only am I going to talk about the people living in poverty and having jobs, but also the economic benefits and how this is the best solution to the nation's problem. Now I'm going to talk about why this currently is a problem. According to the Huffington Post, 14.5% of Americans, are living in poverty, which is over 45 million people. And 34% of Americans are currently on welfare. And yet many of these people have jobs right now and are working full-time or part-time. Despite these people scraping the bottom of the bucket just to pay for their basic needs, they obviously aren't going to have money for leisure activities like going to movies or fancy restaurants or maybe amusement parks. And because of this, there's not going to be a lot of money being put back into the economy. And especially for small town businesses, they aren't going to get as many customers. A common argument is that maybe if people earned college degrees or went to a technical school and got a trade, they wouldn't be working these kinds of minimum jobs. And the question is, who's going to pay for their tuition? Who's going to pay for the child care services that they might need if they have families and no one will be home to watch over their children? But luckily, there is a solution. If the minimum wage was raised, people could give back to the economy. They would have more money in their pockets to pay for, like I said before, some of these leisure activities like movies and amusement parks and things. And they can also afford better living circumstances, things like bigger apartments or healthy groceries, because a couple dollars you can go to McDonald's and buy nearly an entire meal. But at the grocery store, for a couple dollars, there's not really a lot you can get for yourself, much less your entire family. It would also reduce the people relying on welfare, and thus lowering the federal deficit by, quote, lowering spending on public assistance programs and increasing tax revenue, end quote. And not only that, but a lot of you people who pay taxes right now are paying for these programs, like these welfare programs. And I'm sure that you would want your tax money to go to things that would benefit not only them, but all of us, like roads and buildings and better education. According to Bernstein and Schmidt, quote, a 1998 EPI study failed to find any systematic significant job loss associated with the minimum wage increase in 1996 to 1997. And many of these states have already raised their minimum wage, some of these being New York, California, and Arizona. Massachusetts and Nebraska have already implemented a $9 minimum wage or more as well. And these two states were ranked among the top 10 in the United States for best economy, according to Andy Kirch on BusinessInsider.com. In conclusion, I'm sure a lot of you are asking, how can you help or do anything about this problem? And if you're 18, you can vote. You can, when the bill comes around on whether or not we should raise the minimum wage, you can put your 2 cents in and help us raise it with this bill. And if you're not 18, you can talk about this and just make it a well-known problem, and so that the people who can vote are well educated and they know that this is the best solution. It's time, as Dr. Martin Luther King once said, that people stop getting part-time pay for full-time work. Thank you.
From the research you did, what would be your opinion on how high the minimum wage should be raised?
I think it should vary from state to state because it would cost more to live in California than it would for Indiana. But for a standard, I believe it should be $9 or more. There are some theories that it could cause inflation rates to go up, or that it might cause some companies to lay off some of their workers because they can't pay for them. But a lot of these people are already in trouble even when they're working because they don't get the benefits of maybe insurance and things, and they can't pay for it themselves because of their wages.
Is there a way for them to stop that inflation? So, with all these gas prices going up, all that has been kind of given off to the consumer. If they raise minimum wage, won't that then be given off to the consumer? Is there a way to stop that from happening?
I didn't find any research on that, but it could possibly help if they looked at the wage state by state and saw like what would be the best price for them, so that maybe people in Indiana weren't getting paid $15 when that would be too high, but whereas in California $15 would be a more reasonable amount.